one of the big risks with the illicit vape products is that the tanks are too big and the concentration of nicotine, which is a really dangerous chemical, is too high. If consumed as a liquid, 10 millilitres could kill somebody.
Hello and welcome to the Cost of Living Newscast from Kent County Council. In this episode, our journalist Elizabeth Matsangu is speaking to Kent Trading Standards Operations Manager Jim Whiddett and Head of Kent Scientific Services Mark Rolf about the dangers of consuming illicit alcohol, tobacco and vape products. For more advice and tips, click the subscribe button below, follow Kent County Council's public protection or business advice accounts on social media, or sign up to receive scam alerts or business bulletins by email. Links below.
Hi Jim and Mark, thank you for joining us today. So Jim, what impact is the cost of living crisis having on the sale of illegal tobacco, vapes and alcohol?
Businesses are going to be trying to maximise the profit that they've got and supply the goods that consumers want. With consumers having less disposable income, they're going to be looking for cheaper products. So as businesses try and fulfill this need from consumers, there could very well be exploitation of illegal products into the wider marketplace. So businesses that are normally compliant and supply genuine products could well start to supply illegal alcohol, tobacco and vapes because it's cheaper and they think that they can legitimately sell those items. So therefore that puts consumers at risk from buying product that isn't legal, could also be unsafe, and is also supporting the illegal marketplace and criminal activity because these goods will have come into the community illegally, smuggled into the UK via criminal networks.
Mark, can you tell us about the dangers of illegal alcohol?
We need to really understand what we mean by the word alcohol, because alcohol is a generic term and it covers lots of different chemicals. Legitimately produced alcoholic drinks, generally the alcohol in that is ethanol, and ethanol is a toxin. So consuming too much of it will make you ill, and that's why we feel ill if we drink too much, or perhaps get a hangover if we drink too much. Illicit alcohol, though, is often not made from ethanol. It's made from other industrial alcohols. Isopropanol is antifreeze, in effect. Methanol is an industrial solvent. Both of those chemicals can make you really quite sick, quite ill, and consumed to excess, they can actually stop you breathing properly and stop your heart operating in the way that it's designed to operate. Illegal alcohol is produced in a space which is completely uncontrolled, whereas your legitimate alcoholic drinks are produced in a quality controlled environment where the amount of alcohol is known, the type of alcohol is known.
And what types of risks are involved with illicit tobacco?
It's fair to say at the start, tobacco is dangerous anyway. Tobacco, as we all know, has health implications and has its own dangers associated with it. The issue with illicit tobacco is that it's produced in an uncontrolled environment. We've tested illicit tobacco in the laboratory, and we've found, for example, that it contains heavy metals, which are a toxin, but it contains them at up to 5 times greater value than in the same legitimate product as the counterfeit one we've been testing. Heavy metals, again, they're a toxin. They will have a long-term impact on people's health. There is also a noted risk that illicit tobacco products don't just contain tobacco. They contain whatever else the criminal manufacturers choose to put in there. Whatever they've got that's cheap that will burn. And the final risk around illicit tobacco actually is to do with the product, particularly for cigarettes. Legitimate cigarettes have a system built into the paper of the cigarette which retards the burning of the cigarette. So if someone is partially their way through smoking a cigarette and they fall asleep and drop it onto a sofa or a bed, a legitimate cigarette will go out. A counterfeit cigarette or an otherwise illicit cigarette may not go out and may then cause a house fire with all the associated dangers that has.
So what might happen if someone consumes illegal vape products?
Generally speaking, vape products don't have the same kind of risk associated with them of combustion. They don't catch fire. Although, if you're using the wrong charger on a vape, it can have a serious impact in terms of making the thing explode and catch fire. That's not really an issue with the product, that's an issue with the way that consumers use them. So what we would say is always use the charger it came with. What we have to remember with vapes is that they're a system for introducing nicotine generally to people. They're an alternative to smoking. Nicotine is a really dangerous chemical. If you're consuming nicotine in a slow and controlled way, actually it's unlikely to have a toxic effect on you. But if somebody were to consume the liquid that's in a vape product, and this has been known to happen where a child particularly has broken one of these and consumed the liquid, the maximum size tank for a legitimate vape product is 2 millilitres. If a healthy adult consumed 2 millilitres of the vape liquid, they would be ill. Some of the illicit products are up to 10 millilitre tanks. If consumed as a liquid, 10 millilitres could kill somebody. So one of the big risks with the illicit vape products is that the tanks are too big and the concentration of nicotine, which is a really dangerous chemical, is too high. There is a chemical that's used to create a buttery flavour. It can be used in things like popcorn or other kind of buttery tasting foods. To eat it and consume it in that way is perfectly safe. But if you inhale it, it actually causes a condition known as popcorn lung, which is a lung disease to the finest parts of the human lung, and it's irreversible. So vape products that are produced otherwise than in the proper and controlled environment could contain additives, which actually to inhale them is really harmful, will cause long-term illness.
Jim, what should people look out for when purchasing such items? How can they tell when something is fake?
Price is going to be a bit of an indicator here. If it's too good to be true, it normally is. So if we start off with alcohol, first off, look at the product. Physically, does it look right? Does it look like the product that you would normally buy? The colour of the labels, are they correct? Alcohol supplied in the UK should have the UK duty mark, which is a pink circle design on it, which quite clearly says that it is the UK duty mark. Is that present on the bottle? If it's not, people should be starting to ask questions. If it's a product that supplied in the UK and it's a food, then the labelling should and must be in English. Now, tobacco is a highly regulated product. Most people who use tobacco products are fully aware that now anything supplied in the UK should be in a plain packaging. So vivid brands and logos, if you see these on tobacco products, that's give away straight away that these are illicit, either counterfeit or just illicit product. You know, if it's coming from under the counter or something like that, then these are all things that should be raising people's suspicions and they shouldn't be purchasing them. So if we talk about vapes, as Mark has already indicated, 2 millilitres is the maximum capacity. The products have to go through the Medicines Health Regulatory Authority to prove that what they contain is actually safe for human consumption. So if it's got a tank size of above 2 millilitres, it won't have gone through that process. Some people are actually seeing on virtually all of these disposable devices now a puff rating. The manufacturers are starting to use this to give consumers an indication of how much they might be able to get out of the device. And an approximate puff of 600 is equivalent to approximately 2 millilitres. We're seeing products in the marketplace at the moment with 3,500 puff, 6,000 puff. These are clear indications that they are not legal. They wouldn't have gone through the Medicines Health Regulatory Authority's processes to prove that they're a safe device. So consumers shouldn't be purchasing these. There are other things as well. So as Marcus said, nicotine is very, very toxic. Because of this, there's strict labeling that is required on the product. It should have the skull and crossbones pictogram on it. So if it hasn't got that, it's not compliant, it's not legal. It would also have to have a raised triangle. So this is for people who have problems with their vision, who might not be able to see and distinguish the pictograms. They can feel the raised triangle and know there's something toxic about that product. And I suppose the final thing would be there should be a name and address of somebody within the UK who is responsible for that product.
And what advice do you have for retailers out there today?
So trading standards would advise retailers that if they are struggling with the cost of living and trying to supply the products that their consumers want to purchase, that they make sure they deal with reputable suppliers, people that they know and trust. They might try and find cheaper products from new suppliers. If they do this, they need to be careful and make sure that those suppliers have done the checks that they're required to on the products they're supplying. The retailers should always be able to get a receipt or an invoice for the products they're purchasing. For food, that is part of the traceability system and is a legal requirement. For business advice, businesses can call us on 03000 41 20 20. And again, if the product seems too cheap and too good to be true, then they should obviously be wary and think twice before purchasing.
We can't take action without your reports. We need everyone who comes across them to speak up and report scams and criminals. Even if you've seen a scam many times before, your reporting can help us target our resources and warn and protect others. If you have information on doorstep criminals, counterfeit, fake or illegal goods, illicit tobacco, loan sharks or underage sales, contact the charity Crimestoppers on 0800 555 111. You'll stay 100% anonymous, always. To report scams and get advice on consumer issues, call the Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline on 0808 223 1133. Thank you for helping us protect Kent from scammers and criminals.